And hello, everyone. Welcome to the Real Estate Show on KCMX News Media 880. Pete Belcaster and Joe Brett, the real estate guys, with you today. And hey, thanks for joining us here on KCMX on September the 29th. Gosh, you know, October is here. You'd think temperatures are cooling off. All that's happening, and we're going to talk about fires. Oh, good. As a topic that's been around all summer.
We drove down the freeway on Monday home from Portland, and we saw quite a plume still from the Klondike fire out there west of Grants Pass.
I was amazed at that,
yeah,
by the way. I really was.
Timber still burning out there. So really the smoke is cleared, but the dangers and the work is not done.
Well, the fellow here in the center of us today is Greg White. He's one of the owners of Reinhold and O'Hara Insurance in Ashland, and my goodness, you've been doing this. You've been at a long time, haven't you?
Quite a while. I bought the agency in 2001.
2001.
Yeah.
Well, that's a while ago.
Yeah, a little while.
Yeah.
I was with Allstate prior to that and had the opportunity to buy Reinhold and O'Hara that has been in Ashland since the dawn of time. 1939. Actually, we have paperwork back to 1939. So, yeah, a day or two.
Yeah,
a day or two.
And how the insurance business has changed, I can't even imagine. Like everything else has changed as well. Yeah. What?
Long, deep roots yourself in Ashland. Your dad was the fire chief there, and Greg played a little football for the Grizzlies in his day.
Yeah, so you back in the day, you had some fun, and definitely love being part of the community and just being part of Ashland.
Big part of it.
And Greg, like Sheriff Nate Sickler, who was here, a few weeks ago, they coach Pop Warner football. They do things outside of that, helping kids and all sorts of things out of that. So
been Little League president, youth football, Ashland, coaching Ashland middle school football right now. I mean, I keep busy.
Good work.
And always in full disclosure on our program, Greg has been my insurance agent. Well, as long as I've been in that, I have 30 years probably altogether there. And certainly knows the business. So thanks for being here. We really do appreciate that.
Thanks for having me.
What happened?
I want to know where you guys got the real estate guys? Did you tag that?
It was just I don't know. It's just
I'm gonna
us.
give that one to Pete.
I like it.
Anyway,
that's our creative extent right there.
Yeah, it doesn't get any better than that. So tell us about this summer. I mean, we've seen now they call it the new normal about these fires that we've seen and the thousands and thousands of structures and homes destroyed and stuff like that. The insurance industry. Tell us what's going on with that, Greg, and what you're hearing and you're seeing, and because it's a mess.
Hope it's not the new normal.
I hope not either.
We're dealing with the smoke every summer. It seems like it definitely wasn't like that as a kid growing up here in Ashland or in the Rogue Valley. Certainly hope it's not the new normal. What we're seeing on the insurance side is we're seeing a lot of companies really taking a harder look at wildfire risk exposure. So even if you're in town, we'll use Ashland as a reference.
Okay.
If you're in Ashland, Ashland's a protection class 3 through the Ashland Fire Department. But if you live up Morton or anywhere up in the interface,
up in the forest,
up in there, a lot of companies are choosing to pass because even though it passes on a protection class 3 basis, it doesn't pass the wildfire score that they use. So they say, yeah, we're going to pass.
It's a risk business. Insurance is a risk business, and the risk has escalated for these types of situations.
I just had a home on Bridge Street that, in town, nice area, nothing wrong with it at all, and had 2 companies pass on it. Luckily, we write for multiple different companies, so we have some that will, some that won't. But it's definitely, that's kind of where we're seeing it. The rates are still competitive. All that's fine right now. What we're seeing is companies just going, nah, we're not going to take that on.
We're not going to take that on. The losses that have occurred in Reading, just in Reading.
I have clients in Reading.
Okay.
None that homes burned down.
Are they? I'm just curious. Are they being handled? I mean, is it how has that gone on?
It's crazy.
It's Santa Rosa the year before, Reading this year. Lake County in California. At the same time. So what's happening with that?
So the companies on a company basis, as far as they definitely bring catastrophic teams in to handle those kind of losses. Kind of like how they would treat a hurricane or something. They bring in these mobile catastrophic teams to help settle the claims or at least start the process. The big factor we're seeing with these massive fires that burn down hundreds, thousands of properties at one time is what we believed we could rebuild the home for if it was a one-off situation, like if this house just had a kitchen fire and burned up, versus now where
You're
thousands
doing
of homes.
the whole home.
Yeah, now we're dealing with supply and demand versus contractors now are really busy. Now it's almost going to be twice as much as what we thought we could insure it for. So we're really kind of looking at that as far as the insurance side. What is it going to cost to rebuild this home if 1,000 homes go up at the same time? And a lot of those people are going to find themselves underinsured.
Just because of the market forces there, the new construction that's taking place all over the country has already put the strain on the system. They're struggling to keep up. So when you have catastrophic losses like that, boy, just to get the materials can be a long process.
Materials and getting people to even come do the work.
Yeah.
Well, and the ripple effect of that all over the economy, we saw out of Santa Rosa, because remember there was what was it? There was a big plant down there that burned insulation plant. I forget the company. And all of a sudden, insulation prices were going crazy because there was nothing left there, because that had even gone up. So the claims are being, so they're being done, but it's underinsured. So you go back to replace it, and that's where the problem is, right? Because you say it was
it's going to take a lot longer, and it's going to cost a lot more than what you had planned for.
So can these people get fire insurance again, or what's happening to them when you go back and try to rebuild?
So, when they go back to rebuild, they're either going to have to, yes, most companies are going to stay on the risk because you're going to rebuild a brand new home that hopefully has a lot of safety features built into it. Okay. At some point, they can choose to pull out of an area, which could happen. I drove through Santa Rosa in December, and just unbelievable. Looked like a war zone. It was just chimneys, foundations, and burnt cars. Still. It was just incredible. One of our companies we write with, Nationwide Insurance, used to have a big office in Santa Rosa, and from what I've heard, their losses just in Santa Rosa is $1 billion.
Wow. $1 billion
that they're going to be dealing with. How's that going to affect Oregon? It's going to affect Oregon. It's going to, the West Coast is kind of all in one,
fire zone
bag. Yeah. They're all kind of considered all together. Even though we don't have the Santa Ana winds, we don't really have the huge catastrophic losses like what they've seen in California. It's going to impact us.
It's got to. And is it specifically a regional problem where the industry is adjusting to these specific conditions here? Because otherwise, in the nation, we've not seen near the devastation and the number and the volume of catastrophic fires.
I think it's a West Coast thing. It's definitely, you see it in Colorado, and we've seen it there. We've seen it definitely up and down the West Coast. East Coast, they have their own issues. They got hurricanes, tornadoes in Oklahoma. Everybody's got their own thing. The insurance companies loved Oregon because we didn't have those type of losses.
Fires.
Yeah, but now it's just wildfire. So
it's a game changer.
Yeah. And so what has this done to? Again, we just heard all sorts of things from people over who's come into our shows that we've met. One of them was that. People buying today. You come into Jackson County today and you want to go, we got a lot. We have built so much in the interface of the forest. That's the biggest reason when you and I covered fires back in the day, 30 years ago, we didn't see losses of structures. It was rare that you saw even a structure burn in a fire back then. Not anymore. So we're building in the interface.
Proliferation out there, yep.
Can I still get insurance if I want to buy a place out there in these zones, out in these rural parts of Jackson, Josephine counties?
You can. You're going to pay considerably more for it, and the coverage generally is not going to be as good as a traditional homeowner, what we call it's a contract. Homeowners insurance is a contract. So if it's we call it an HO3 or HO5 form, that's the policy form. You're not going to get a replacement cost type policy if you're buying a home 20 miles up Dead Indian Memorial Road. I just had someone called me, was looking at a home in that area, and actually decided to pass on it because of the expense.
Of the issue of fire insurance and the expense that we're going to be seeing. Okay, what is it costing now? You and I have fire insurance in our houses. I don't pay. It's part of my homeowner's insurance, right?
Right. You pay, part
I don't pay very much for that.
And it's probably $500-600 a year.
Yeah.
And so that's pretty standard, and still's true for most people. But if you're want to live up, Green Springs Highway, you're going to be $2,000-$3,000 a year.
I would think that, when you drive around our counties, pick any road, Anderson Creek up to Josephine County, there are hundreds and thousands of homes.
I've shown a bunch of those, yeah.
Aren't there? We've seen them. We've been in a lot of them. Yeah. There are thousands of these homes in these interfaces out there. And will they expect to see increases with the insurances come around? Because these are really fire-prone areas.
Right. What's going to happen and what is happening is the companies are really starting to use technology more on their side to actually look at the homes they have insured. Because back in the day, we could get away with saying, oh, it's 97520 zip code, but it was 10 miles up, and maybe it would pass, up by Callahan's or something. And now they're going to be like, oh, wait a minute. That's not really what we want to insure. So we're seeing companies re-underwrite their books is what it's called. So they are doing that. During the Klamathon fire, I have a number of clients that live on Mount Ashland Access Road. And, we have Travelers Insurance who we write with still kind of does the higher risk PCs.
Okay.
So we have most of them with Travelers. Good policy, good coverage, but it's fairly expensive. And, during that time, I just wanted to reach out to clients and say, hey, you okay? What do you need, for the evacuation stuff. But like you said, if you're out in the trees and that's where you want to live, it's going to cost you.
It's going to factor that into your purchase plans and your budgeting.
Absolutely.
Your forecast for moving forward.
It's going to cost you more.
Right. Yeah.
No question.
100%.
If you can even get it. Now we've got a break coming up here in a couple of minutes, and so there's lots more questions that I got for Greg. Everything from people, if you're certain lengths, away from a fire, a house, you can't get insurance. Pacific Gas and Electric is announced they're not going to be delivering electricity in rural areas, certain roads anymore. Telling you people you got to go get solar, something else. We're not going to do it. The whole interface seems to be really changing, probably more so in the last 6 months than I think I've ever seen it in
and the conditions of how you live there and what the effects of that are. Yeah.
I'm wondering if it's going to turn into like national flood insurance. Fire insurance in the West.
That's funny. I think this is just me thinking outside the box, and what I deal with on a daily basis is I do believe that what's going to happen is you're going to be buying wildfire insurance as a separate endorsement.
As a separate.
So it'll have like earthquake, where it's a much higher deductible, and it's an additional premium. So they're going to get additional money, and you're going to have a much higher deductible just to have wildfire.
Just to coverage. Have the insurance, and if you can get it in certain places too.
They'd be hard pressed to provide that for you otherwise under these conditions.
Well, that's just some of the issues. We talk about fire insurance here at the Real Estate Show today. We're with Greg White from Reinhold and O'Hara Insurance. We got a break coming up here. We're coming right back. Lots more to discuss here about fire insurances and homeowner insurances too, because we all have to have it, and we all need to know a whole lot more about it. The Real Estate Show continues here on KCMX right after this. And welcome back to the Real Estate Show here on KCMX News Media 880. Pete Belcaster and Joe Brett, the real estate guys, with you today, and approaching 500 shows. Look at this. In the future, we got a John L. Scott Market Watch next week. Maggie Mahar is going to be here. We're going to talk about some of the new construction going on over in southeast Medford. I told you this years ago. I couldn't believe that Medford, we're going to build 10,000 homes over there in that part of town. It's amazing what's going on.
Off North Phoenix?
Yeah, off North Phoenix Road.
That's the master plan there. Yep, it is. And they're only about 2,000, approaching probably 3,000 into that now with the new construction. Is that what it is, you think? I think they were at about 2 when the slowdown hit. They just got started on it. But great trails and interconnectivity and pocket parks are all planned into that. But it is coming. I've been to the meetings where they're coming one after the other.
The only thing is showing people those houses, and they are really nice. And we're going to talk to Maggie next week. But the lots are so small. We all want single levels again, but the lots are so small, so people they want a little bit of a yard kind of thing. And especially if you have a family and all those things that we always talk about, it's true.
I'm hard pressed to pay $500,000.
I was going to ask you what the price was.
I really like my neighbors.
Yeah.
Anyway, today on the Real Estate Show, we're with Greg White, who's the owner of Reinhold and O'Hara Insurance down in Ashland on the Real Estate Show, talking about insurance. Fire insurance has been our topic so far today, and I don't want to prolong that kind of a thing, but What's your advice to people? You know, we talk about fire safe your home, you know, your property. Does that make a difference in fire insurance, Greg, today or not?
I mean, you're definitely, I'd always advise to do stuff like that. It doesn't necessarily make a difference in your insurance rate.
It doesn't. Okay.
It helps, obviously, you know.
Save your property, I
yeah,
guess.
I think Ashland has their FireWise program through the Ashland Fire Department. And, you know, we've done that at our house and, you know, as well. But it doesn't really impact, there's no discount or anything like that. And even if there was, it would be minor. As far as the companies I represent anyway, which we represent, you know, 6 or 7 different large companies that do this and have access to 10 more through other MGAs and stuff. But we don't see that. What we see, you know, like what you were talking about, those new neighborhoods or what's going in. I mean, a traditional homeowner policy for something like that's going to be pretty easy to get.
Okay.
Shouldn't be an issue. It's going to be in the $500, $600, $700 range for good coverage on a good policy.
So in town, right, in the urban areas where you've got, you know, neighborhoods, fire stations, fire hydrants, those kind of things, that really is not affected. We're really talking in terms of fire. We're talking really outside the city limits.
Yeah, it's wildfire, right? That's where everybody wonders, hey, is my home covered for wildfire? And a few years ago, somehow somebody spread the rumor that after the Oak Knoll fires, that they may not be covered because it was a wildfire. But that's not true. Fire is fire is fire. Whether it's a kitchen fire, electrical fire, wildfire, your neighbors start a fire, burned your house down. You're going to be covered on fire. So that's not the issue. The issue is whether or not the company is willing to take the risk on, even if there's a hydrant in front of the house. But if you're building your home at the top of the road and surrounded by trees
and one way in and out.
One way in and out, and could be hard to get to in the winter. I mean, there's a lot of different things they look at, but definitely the wildfire exposure is even more of a rating factor or criteria now for companies.
Insurance is great. And I look at my home insurance.
Really?
To your point of doing things to defend your house from fire or to protect your investment, I want to do that instead of filing an insurance claim. Because when I have to come file that claim and something really bad has happened to my house, I'm going to be in a really bad way. So aside from the discount, those things you do to protect your property are the best thing that you can do to keep yourself from having to go through that process, replace a property. Sometimes it can be the difference in whether or not your property makes it or not.
And I was riding with the Jackson County Fire Department thing out in rural areas a few years ago, and I'll never forget when they were saying, well, we won't stop there because they didn't do anything, but we will stop here and make a stand at this place because they have taken the effort, as you just said, to make their place fire safe. So, but when you see so many that are not that way, and I guess the biggest thing probably for us is if you're in that mood of buying today, and agents, we all need to realize this, that issue is out there and we can't ignore it. Yeah. We can't ignore the issue of fire insurances and how they're going to play into real estate sales and things in the future. I don't think anyway.
There were a number of companies that put moratoriums in Ashland just because the wildfires going on. We know, I won't say them. There's some of our competitors that said, we're not writing business until these fires are under control. And, Ashland wasn't really under any threat. But they just said, if you're in the 97520 zip code, we're going to not write insurance right now.
So that rumor that they weren't writing insurance was it was partially true.
It's partially true, but it's temporary.
Temporary. Yeah. Just during the fires, it did not manufacture itself where you can't get it.
Yeah, we get emails on a daily basis from our company, so that say, boom, nope, not going to do this, because of this fire. Okay. But none of our carriers pulled out of Ashland, but there were some of our competitors.
So prospective home buyers, I'm starting to think of myself, if I've got somebody I'm showing a property to or is considering buying out there, part of my due diligence as their agent and in advising them would be to look in that fire insurance issue. That's a new thing that we probably didn't give a lot of thought to. Or
it was always kind of easy before.
It was a given that it would be part of the insurance policy that came with the property. But some good due diligence could be really give you a clearer picture of what it's going to take.
And I think part of the issue is going to be what are lenders going to do about this? Do you deal with lenders much, Greg, or not?
We deal with lenders on proof of coverage and a lot of
coverage.
Yeah, and there's definitely times when they will request certain limits or certain
Okay.
amounts of coverage.
Interesting.
And
Makes
they'll,
sense.
they'll want certain, they want lower deductibles, they want higher coverage limits, they want to protect their loan, basically.
Right, right.
So it happens.
But you see us, if I heard you right now, I want to make sure that our audience hears this. You're saying in the future that it's going to have to be wildfire. This insurance is going to be a rider. How did you describe that again? A separate
I'm
kind of
saying
insurance.
this is what I think
Right.
is going to happen,
Right.
and based on kind of
Yeah,
intel
that's
in the
right.
background. Okay, but
Okay.
it's not happening now.
Okay.
So today, if you want to buy earthquake insurance, it's an additional endorsement added to your homeowner
Endorsement,
policy.
you call that.
You're paying additional premium. It's cost you more money, and it's a completely separate deductible from
Okay.
it's a very high deductible. It's
Okay.
usually a percentage of the dwelling. So if
right.
your house is insured for $500,000 and you have a 10% deductible, you have a $50,000
Right,
deductible.
right,
You're not
right.
your traditional 1,000
Right,
deductible
right.
or whatever. I think that's where we're gonna see wildfire go. So if a fire is declared a wildfire at that point, then the policy would switch, and that would be the
Okay.
coverage that you would be under.
In that kind of scenario, then even if you live in a rural area that you're covered under a fire district, right? I mean, you're still going to have that type of policy in the future, probably.
I think that's kind of where we're headed.
Think of our friends in Southern California who live in the earthquake and the Santa Ana winds and fire zone. Here's your second policy to deal with those
deal with
potential
I
risks.
would have fire, flood, earthquake, and what's the other one? Mud or whatever.
Mudslide.
The four seasons
Acts
of
of
Southern
God.
California.
Yeah,
Well,
exactly.
we're getting pretty close to some of those ourselves, which
Yeah.
is really an unfortunate kind of situation that we find ourselves. What are we going to find then for price increases? What are you hearing then? Am I coming back if I get my renewed? Or again, in the cities, we're not affected too much by this.
Yeah, and I don't
But
think
if you live in the Applegate Valley or out in Merlin, up in the Josephine County rural parts
Sure.
up there, which are all treed, what can they expect to see in the future, do you think?
I think you're going to see rates go up. What happens is insurance companies buy insurance. It's called reinsurance through Zurich or Lloyd's of London, those type of companies. So they say if I have a claim that reaches $100 million, a catastrophic claim, then you're going to come in and help us with this. So what we're hearing is reinsurance rates
It's the
are
reinsurance.
going up.
You bet.
So reinsurance goes up. So the company's got to buy reinsurance. I mean, it all trickles down, right? So
Yeah.
they're not nonprofits,
Right,
right? So it's all going to trickle down. So you're going to see rates go up. We saw auto rates in the last couple of years in Oregon have gone up because of some legislative issues,
Okay.
and it's kind of been a trickling effect over the last couple of years. So people call and go, "Hey, my driving record's perfect. Why did my rates go up?" Doesn't have anything to do with your situation. It's just
Sure.
a statewide,
Yeah.
movement.
Industry dynamics.
That's going on, and that's what's going to happen on the homeowner side.
It's going to. Does government have a role to play in fire insurance? I mean,
No.
do you? I wonder if the
FEMA
legislature. We're electing new people.
Well, they're not putting out the fires very well, Pete,
That's
so
right.
I don't think we need to ask them to do more on top of that.
Well, but they're
It'd be
in
great
charge.
if they could put the fires out.
They're in charge of putting the fires out.
Yes.
They prepare us for this stuff. They supposed to prepare us for disasters. I mean, do you? I mean, no. I'm serious.
Yeah.
I can see.
I hope not.
We have national flood insurance, and don't you say that you never doubt this that you're going to see some sort of national fire insurance if we get to this point.
FEMA is-
because the insurance companies are not going to continue to take this if this continues year after year after
Right.
year. I don't think, or the rates are going to go sky high. You're not going to even have any. You're going to be out there on your own in the area.
It's possible, and dealing with FEMA on the flood side is difficult. So I don't want to deal with the government. Flood's bad enough. I don't want to.
And floods are more nationwide. I think it's a more
Right.
nationwide problem. We're more of a regional issue in our fire issue here to these western states.
Okay, I'm just saying there's going to be some
I
solutions.
hope
That
that
somebody in
doesn't happen.
Salem's going to come up with some.
Could be.
that'd be the
That's
worst
possible.
possible
Yeah,
scenario.
that's possible.
Well,
Please don't.
They usually do that. Well, but we're going to see rate increases. I think is what this is going to do. And again, we only bring this up because we're seeing so many people come in and buying. I mean, we get lots of California people, retirees, whatever, coming here.
But they come here and they think they're getting a great deal because earthquake insurance here is much cheaper than it is in California.
Yeah.
And there's a reason. It's all risk, right?
Yeah.
So but they think, wow, it's cost me $800 to insure this $500,000 home. That's a smoking deal.
That's
yeah.
It's all in your perspective, isn't it? But again, we get lots of people. When you think that we turn over so many rural properties here.
Yeah.
And so many of those people who are buying them are new people to rural properties here. And I always talk to clients about that, about the land stewardship program from the Jackson Soil Water Conservation District, about managing your lands and trying to get them fireproof and fire set, because you don't want to face that. The pictures that we've seen of these fires down in Redding and stuff around, and destructions. I mean, devastating. You see that, you never want to go through that.
They come with that dream of country living, and then move into the reality of what's really involved and what it really takes. And all the enjoyment is there, but the ways to protect yourself and take care of your property are really important.
Well, we're going to have to be aware that fire insurance in our rural communities, whether you're in Klamath, Jackson, the coast, wherever it is, if you build into these places, that you're going to pay more. I guess really, that rural lifestyle, you've gotten away with it for a long time, but I think you're going to pay more, a lot more. I think it's going to be more than, I don't know, but it seems like it's going to be a lot more insurance going to be.
And earthquakes are tricky in Oregon because we don't have those little 6, 7s. But when we do have the one,
for the big one,
it's gonna be, we may have buildings shaking pretty good in Medford when that one goes.
We got one more segment to go. We're with Greg White from Reinhold and O'Hara Insurance today, talking about fire insurance, homeowner insurance, and all that on the Real Estate Show. Check out any of our past shows at realestateshoworegon.com. We have some terrific shows that have been on there. All these topics that we cover, you can catch them all there as well. realestateshoworegon.com. And we are coming right back to KCMX after this. And welcome back to the Real Estate Show here on KCMX News Media 880. Pete Belcaster and Joe Brett, the Real Estate Guys, with you. And thanks for joining us today. Next week, a John L. Scott Market Watch show. Maggie Mahar will be here. And new construction, it really went down, from last year. You wouldn't think it would be that way, but it actually has. And
they built a lot
of stuff.
And the materials and the laborers are still in high demand.
I'm wondering, we talk about the tour of homes was last week, the last 2 weeks, from the Builders Association of Southern Oregon. And you can go onto their website, by the way, to see those designs. I was talking mostly the designs of these new homes, and the finishings are really quite interesting that are being used today. They probably got to be fireproof or something, that kind of thing. Greg White has been with us today. He's the owner of Reinhold and O'Hara Insurance. We've been talking about fire insurances here on the Real Estate Show today. We've come to the conclusion, I think, out of this whole scenario is that you're going to pay more for fire insurance in a rural area, and that an endorsement probably is coming for fire insurance as a separate kind of policy onto your homeowner's insurance, right? Those are the two things that I hear you saying today.
Well, I think that's coming. I don't, it's not here today, but I think that's coming. I think, the advice I would have people today, when your homeowner policy is getting ready to renew, take a look at it, sit down with your agent and talk about it, because there's a lot, when I have someone coming to me, hey, can you quote my home for me? And I look at what they currently have, a lot of people are really underinsured to rebuild.
Right.
And even and that's just on a one-off type situation, if their house just burns down to the ground, versus multiple properties burning down. So definitely take a look, just see what's out there. There's other companies, there's other coverages that you should probably take a look at. Don't just pay the renewal. Take a look at it, especially now.
It's like we had estate planning in here, Joe. I told you found my will was done in 1982.
Perfect.
It was outdated.
A little bit.
It's the same way. It's the same way with homeowner insurance. I got mine from him in 1992 when I first bought my house, and I never really looked at it much. I never looked at it actually.
Well, one of the back to the Oak Knoll fires, we can talk about that. One of the homes that I didn't insure during the Oak Knoll fires had a situation like that. A policy that hadn't been looked at, was severely underinsured, and it was the one that sat there burnt for months before before they could actually even move on it, and they ended up finally doing something with it, but it was because it was insured for $80,000.
And time goes really fast. We get busy, and a year or two goes by, and I think now I've had my home for 10 years.
I think you're the same. You're in the same boat.
I'm really ready to take a look at it and think of the valuation fluctuations and things like that we've seen in those 10 years. It behooves you, I think, to get in front of that.
Well, we've had people in here, water damage and you deal with
We deal with that all the time.
You've heard this. Water damage is the number one,
Yep.
cause. Fires, mold, all the kinds of things that I'm sure. I'm sure he hates dealing
Greg's
with.
world.
Here at
Part
Greg's
of what
world.
we do,
Yeah.
We two years ago we got Service Business of the Year through the chamber.
Okay.
And I think, okay, I'm a sales organization. I want to sell you insurance, but absolutely, we're there for people when things go wrong.
Well, that's a neat recognition.
Yeah, it was nice. The average homeowner claim is between $7,000 and $10,000, and it's traditionally going to be water damage of some sort, or maybe a small fire or something, but theft, that kind of stuff. But that's your average homeowner loss, which obviously get way bigger on the total loss.
Yeah. Well, you don't want to make a claim,
Right,
my whole thing is never wanted to make a claim. We give them all this money every month, but
I have my insurance. I sleep at night. I don't ever want to use it.
I really don't want to call Greg and say I need it. But
I tell people you pay for it, might as well use it. And then,
when you need it, it's there.
When you need it,
it's absolutely true. But the biggest thing you see in terms of regular homeowners insurance is just you did it years ago. You've never checked it. You still keep paying it. Maybe you changed even companies or whatever, or agents. But you're underinsured. That's probably number one, isn't it?
That is number one, because we see, someone comes in and says, my house is 2,600 square feet, and they have, $214,000 of dwelling coverage on the policy. I go, well, that's not going to work.
Insurance is there to protect you. The one thing it cannot protect you from is yourself, basically.
And I got to have, the type of homeowner policy. You got the dwelling,
Traditional, right?
But don't you also? How much should you have in terms of if someone falls or what's it called?
Liability.
Liability insurance. Do people most have that with it? Or
Yeah,
what do you think
it's
about
all built
that?
into the homeowner policy. There are some, I don't do anything less than $500,000. Anybody in Ashland owns a home I recommend a personal umbrella policy. They're so affordable. It's $150 a year for an extra $1 million liability. I've had 2 liability claims, umbrella claims over the years. Both times, the people still kept their homes. They didn't lose their home because the claim was so severe. But it's, when you're dealing with homeowners, you got structure, other structures, any detached structures on the property, your personal belongings, your contents, and then there's coverage D or loss of use. What are we going to pay to rent you a home or put you in a hotel or whatever additional expenses you have because you're not able to live in your home?
And you see, I suppose you see that. You see all this more than you think. I mean, there's thousands and thousands of homes.
Yeah, and people look at it like, I have $200,000 in personal property. And I go, no, it adds up really fast.
It goes,
You got to go get a whole new wardrobe.
Yeah.
You got to go get toothpaste. You got to get. You're starting from scratch. Food. Everything. That number goes quick.
So it's kind of we're almost out of time here. So I want to make sure that you get a chance to again wrap this up of saying that we're seeing great change. We're seeing changes coming in what Greg and the insurance agents. We got some great insurance agents in the valley who are all dealing with this. I mean, it's not just you; it's everybody, isn't it?
Yeah, I think we're dealing with on a lesser scale than California is, just because of their. If they just look at the actual losses, it's mostly in California, obviously, but a lot of the national carriers look at the West Coast as kind of one grouping.
And they think of Oregon, they think, wow, a lot of trees.
A lot of trees.
Class
They're
4.
going to burn up. That's right.
Well, we do have a lot of trees, and they are burning up, haven't they? And boy, we sure hope that doesn't happen. They get that fire out. I was so surprised. That Klondike fire, the smoke out there. You think it's over. At least the weather is getting better in terms of that. But we haven't had any rain since when? 4th of July, wasn't it? Or wasn't it the 4th of July,
15th.
Right around that day?
July 15th was that thunderstorm.
Was that when it was?
There was very little rain that came through, just in pockets that day.
It hasn't been very much, and boy, I hope we have a good winter, or we'll really be moaning come next summer. You talk about wildfires and everything else. We don't want to see that. But the biggest thing is if you're insured, make sure you contact your insurance agent and really get corrected, right? Make sure you're not undervalued in your insurance. And if you're in a rural area, boy, you really need to take care of this.
Talk to someone like Greg or someone who knows. Just call them up and start asking questions to protect yourself and get yourself squared away.
Great idea. It's what we do.
I wonder if Pacific Power, that they're not going to maybe in the future not to bring power out to rural areas because of fire risk. It's all about risk, I hear Greg say.
Yeah, Pacific Power's got their hands full right now.
And you and then the reinsurance part of this thing. That's the other part I didn't even know. So, man, it's a complicated web.
Yeah.
But the best thing is be smart, take care of yourself, be a smart real estate
Learned a lot
consumer.
today. Thank you.
Thanks for having me.
Don't put it off. Greg, thank you very much. You can get a hold of Greg White. You can just Google him, Greg White, Reinhold and O'Hara Insurance in Ashland. And thank you for coming by and visiting with us. We really do appreciate that.
Good to see you guys.
That'll do it for the Real Estate Show today. Thanks for joining us. We're back with you next Saturday, same time, same place. In the meantime, have a great week, everybody. God bless you all, and we'll see you next Saturday right here on the Real Estate Show.